Welcome to yet another episode of Band Stripped. Our guest tonight is Gary Rathbone. Gary was a fantastic artist back in the day in the 80s with a band called The Spectres that had a huge hit with a song called Teddy Bear. And he's in the hot studio tonight with us on Band Stripped. This is Gary Rathbone. Gary, welcome to the Band Stripped studio.
Great to be here. Absolutely fantastic to be here, actually.
Oh, Gary, it's an absolute privilege to be in a situation where I finally get a chance to talk to you and speak to you about music.
Absolutely.
Now, you, in my terms, I would call you an SA music veteran, and who has been on a rather long sabbatical.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up pretty well, basically. It's been a very long sabbatical.
Why is that?
Well, it's not really, I suppose sabbatical's not the word. It's been in the sense that I've been busy working and focusing in other parts of my life, and been on with sport. That's been my kind of the other area of my life that I've been working on, building a career and managing a whole lot of stuff with, in African sport. And that's really been something that's taken a lot of my time and focus, and it's been quite a big, I've traveled around the continent. I lived in Nigeria for a year, 3 years in Kenya, then 6 years in the UK before finally relocating back to South Africa at the end of last year. And, so it really has consumed a lot of my time. And it's only in the last couple of years, as a lot of the projects I was working on kind of evolved and kind of came to an end and started looking for new spaces, creating new spaces, that I felt that I really wanted to get back to music again. I'd kind of put a lot of all the music that I'd been working on to one side. And even though I hadn't been playing, I had been writing and recording a lot of stuff on my own, and I wanted to get back to that. And so that's how it kind of ended. But
and your writing is probably colored by your many travels.
Well, no, the interesting thing is that, I suppose it is, the experiences that I've had in my many travels, for sure. But the interesting thing is that I think a lot of the songs that I've actually been working on over the last couple of years and putting together, and certainly the two of the songs that actually are on the first EP, Fly, they're actually, some of them are actually very, very old songs that I just haven't got around to actually doing anything with them and finishing them. And this was now got an opportunity. So for many ways, what I wanted to kind of do more than it's been about kind of finishing, getting rid of unfinished business first before I can start moving on.
It's your catharsis in music, isn't it?
Yeah. But there's a lot of good new stuff coming through, and I want to get to that, but I need to finish the unfinished business first.
That's amazing. I mean, we met through a mutual friend, Neil Solomon, and Neil has been talking about you to me for a long time. He says, you've got to meet Gary, you've got to hear his music, you guys have got to write together, you've got to do something together. And I think he's probably been telling you the same thing. Yeah, and now we're finally connecting the circle.
Yes.
So Neil, if you're out there, this is all for you, man.
Neil, that's got to say, shout out on Neil, because Neil's been an absolutely fantastic friend and a kind of colleague, a musical colleague over the years. And in that sabbatical, during that period of time when I wasn't doing anything, Neil still gave me the space. I could go in and work on stuff in his studio when I had the time, and I had to come back to South Africa and go and work with him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was always so supportive. He just really has been fantastic.
Neil lacks in height, he makes up for in his kindness and empathy.
Well, absolutely.
He's a great guy.
From that point of view, he's a giant.
So tell me, what was the 80s like in terms of SA music, the SA music scene, and what are your fondest memories of the 80s?
Well, I think the 80s was an incredible time. I think globally it was a very, very interesting space. And in South Africa, I think we were in a very, very... it was a very dynamic space, I think, with the challenge against the apartheid government at the time. And it created... I mean, we used to feel almost like it was like a kind of Weimar Berlin in that sense. There was kind of these outcast things in this space that where the state was all around you, was creating this pressure, and the world was kind of collapsing in so many ways, and you have, but in around you, all this ugliness and destruction. At the same time, we were people inside these sort of doing some very, very interesting and innovative things. And so I think also because globally there was a lot of changes happening in music as well. So it was an incredibly exciting time in the 80s in South Africa. A lot of breaking down the old guard and the old stuff that was happening, and building a whole new kind of narrative that needed to be written.
Did you find that many of the bands and musicians at the time, or artists at the time, I found that they shared a very similar consciousness in terms of the movement?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's absolutely true. Everybody had felt. I mean, I think everybody was very clear where they were on the divide in terms of where the country was at the time. Yeah. And everybody wanted to be, I mean, in various degrees. Some people, only saw themselves as being they didn't kind of want to rock the boat too much, but certainly they felt that they would, everybody supported the change that the country needed. Some people were much more, serious about it and committed to it. And but everybody was in that space that they, obviously there was an old guard that kind of had to it was a challenge. I remember when we first started trying to put together gigs and things like that in the early 80s, the first band that I could have put together, a band called Suburban Blank Boys, and then Empty Set and that. And it was really hard. You couldn't find venues to play it. They wouldn't accept. The only thing is that, what is that club in town? They used to have a punk night on Thursday nights. So Thursday nights, they had that night. But the rest of the week, it
not
was
the Doors, not the
door.
club.
No, it was damn, I can't remember now. But it was where Peach actually played one of their first ever gigs down there.
Yeah.
But so it was really hard. But within a couple of years, everything had changed, and then kind of what we were doing had kind of come into the mainstream, and everybody was had a whole new artist had broken through, and it changed the shape and the sound that the country was making.
More bands came up as a result of that.
No, absolutely.
Weirdly though, the music industry hasn't evolved that much. Joburg. The Joburg music scene currently, if you ask bands, and most of the bands that have been on this feature have spoken about the same challenge. They're finding it very difficult to find venues and things, to play it.
Yeah.
So we certainly still need venues for bands to be showcased. And
I think that's a key thing. I mean, for me, what I'm saying is that there were venues, but there were a lot of venues that wouldn't allow people playing the kind of music that we wanted to play in that space.
Yeah.
Here, and I think today the issue is that there's just a lack of venues because it's trying to build audiences again. And I think that then that's slightly different. As I say, in those days, no, we don't want you and your views and your kind of attitudes in our places. Basically, you needed to have this kind of straight up kind of thing that we wanted to keep going there, and we had to break that down. And that was the big challenge.
Excellent, Gary. What's the first song that you've chosen for us tonight?
So the first song I'm going to play, actually, and it's interesting because I was telling you about unfinished songs, right?
Yeah.
So this is a song called Cold War. It was written, actually, I originally wrote that song in about 1982, 83.
In the thick of it.
Yeah, in the thick of it. But it was actually, it was about a breakup of a relationship, a long-term relationship I've been going through.
Yeah.
And it was about the breakup of that, and it was a kind of looking at the comparison of that relationship with the kind of world politics, basically, the kind of idea
Using
of a Cold War, the metaphor, exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How states and ideologies kind of clash and fall apart and break. Where conflicts come from, and so that's kind of what it was about. And so it kind of made sense then. But I found that over the years, I think that the metaphor still holds, and it still makes sense to me. And that's why I always wanted to do it. And I've tried for many years to try and get it right, and I've done different versions of it. And I think the version that we've got on Fly is an interesting one because I wanted to orchestrate it and try a different approach.
Yeah.
But the way I'm going to play it is different now because I think live it requires another take, and I'm kind of evolving another take on that. So it's still a song that's evolving, but the basic song I think is still the same. And
excellent. Well, we're looking forward to it. This is Gary Rathbone with his first track on Bandstripped. It's called Cold War.
Myself there in this cold
God knows where, to the ends of the earth, the commencement of fables, great middle ground, fatal despair in this cold war. Cold war between you and me. It's a cold war here at home. Since I found myself living with you on my own. She closed her eyes and counted to 10. Slipped the lock on the door and then walked away without looking back to pretend it was anything else but a cold war. Cold war between you and me. It's a cold war here at home. Since I found myself living with you in this cold war. Cold war between you and me. It's a cold war here at home. Since I found myself living with you on my own.
And that was Gary Rathbone with Cold War, featuring Julie Hall on backing vocals, or assisting vocals, whatever you'd like to call that. Nice to see Jules again, somebody I know for a long time too. Gary, what do you think has changed the most since you last recorded music? Because it's been a while, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It has been a while. But I think the biggest change, I think, at one level has been the technology in that sense. A large part of also why I have struggled to kind of get back in again for many years is that, I wanted to write songs, and the way I wanted to write them, to get the space so you could, you work them out on your guitar, you write some lyrics, but you still don't have an idea. You can't get the idea that's in your head of the song out without going to studio, getting musicians together and putting that all together. And over the last few years, finding programs that can actually, now you can start doing the arrangements and start putting things together just on your own.
So creating your own shapes.
Absolutely. So you can actually now, so I can go take a song to play to somebody, say that's pretty much how it is in my head. Not say, look, this is just me and the acoustic guitar, but it's going to be all this and that if we put it together.
Yeah.
I can actually demo it almost at a level that's quite a
I assume that
complete.
you are writing, though, primarily on acoustic, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It kind of all starts there.
And that's your
or keyboard, basically.
Your initial shape. So keyboards or acoustic guitar?
So a bit of keyboard or acoustic guitar.
Oh, you play both?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I say play, I play it, but I'm not accomplished. Actually, not accomplished on either, basically. I just do enough to get
humble,
to write the song.
Gary
basically.
Rathbone.
I always say to people, I see myself as a songwriter rather than a musician, basically.
Yeah, I say the same thing, and that's only because I think I write better than I sing. So,
well, you call yourself the Eskimo Writer, not the Eskimo musician.
Yeah, exactly. Have you found? I mean, when you wrote with the bands, have you found that you've changed your approach to songwriting, or do you think it stayed pretty much the same through the years?
No, it's definitely changed. I think that in many ways the song, that's why some of the songs that I'm actually bringing back is because when I was writing on my own, even when I was working with other people, I think it was so much nicer in a way working with other people to collaborate and write, and it gave you the confidence as well when we used to collaborate.
It also irons out bad ideas, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I think I learned from that process, and I think I'm a better songwriter on my own now because of the fact that I've worked with a team of other writers that I've worked with, and particularly in the Spectres, working with Richard and Scotty back then, and with Tara, it was really great when we used to get together and throw things and around and pull and push ideas through, and it was a really great process. And I think that I'm a much better writer because of that. I learned a hell of a lot from that process.
You've been in the industry long enough that this question actually can apply to you. A lot of artists have been very young artists who don't have any perspective of music over the last 4 decades. You've seen a difference in the production and the quality of South African music, how it's evolved from the 80s to now.
Yeah.
What are the key takeaways for you from that?
I think the main takeaway is that I think there's an opportunity now for more and more people to actually get out there and get their music out there in that space. I think the biggest challenge is that, and I think this is a global thing, is that because of the way the digital space is opening up, in some ways it's easier now to get something written and recorded and putting it into the void, as it were.
Yeah.
But it's harder now to get that what you're putting out there recognized or found by people.
Yeah.
And I think that because we're in a transition. It's funny because I find the same thing with television, which is my day job.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing, that the way that the traditional television environment is breaking down, and content creators are going to be able to reach audiences directly.
Yeah.
But the thing is that so that's going to be great. So you'll be able to find an audience, but there's still going to be that gap between what you put out there and that audience, and how do you find that audience?
Something to connect it.
Absolutely. And I think we need to find more and more now. There's a role for people, for media groups to come and say, look, we'll do is we'll take your thing and we can market it. We can find you an audience and we can get it out there. And there needs more and more things like that, because I think that the old role that the record company used to play, that's kind of broken. The record company is a very, very small...
Sort of reduced a lot more now.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There's a lot more power in the hands of people. And I always tell our listeners that you have the power to determine how successful an artist can be by engaging with their music, engaging with social media, sharing it.
Yeah.
So it helps discovery, because in the old days we depended only on radio for discovery, right?
No, exactly. So that was the whole thing. So now the point is that now there are so many options for you to discover music, but now there's too many. So it needs another level of aggregators, and I think this is where stations like yourselves play a really, really important role.
Absolutely.
Because you create that space. Because people say, okay, well, I need to find out. I need to know, how do people get to know about what's out there unless there's an aggregate? And this is what, as I said, like stations like yourselves can do that.
Well, at the moment, we committed, I think, if the number's correct, 80% of our playlist is local.
Oh, wow, it's fantastic.
So it's a very strong focus on ensuring that South African artists are showcased and the best in South African music is showcased.
That's great.
Which is something we're very proud of. Now, your next track that you've selected is a track called Esplanade.
Yeah.
And I'm very curious about the song because I played it a couple of weeks ago. I did a spotlight feature on you, Gary.
All right, yep. Thank you very much.
And I'm assuming that the song is about the Durban Esplanade, right?
Yeah, that is about the Durban Esplanade. I'm a Durban boy through and through. And it's a song, actually, how it kind of started is Neil was doing some music for a TV series that was set in Durban, and he asked for a song, and I did that. And it kind of worked on the idea. It came to me very, very quickly. Yeah. And I wanted to write a song basically that kind of, not maybe told a story about being in Durban, but just the feeling, to kind of get the essence of what it was to be there in Durban at the time.
If anyone's from Durban and you're listening to this here, you probably know exactly what Gary means. I know what you mean because I spent a lot of time on the Esplanade.
Well, absolutely.
Various parts of
your life. No, exactly.
Especially the bat centers,
Exactly, absolutely. But I mean, there was all of that, and in Durban at the time when I was growing up in Durban was a fantastic experience, and I loved being in that city. And it's a city still that I feel such a strong connection to in so many ways. I mean, I've been in Johannesburg for a large part of my life, and I love Johannesburg. Johannesburg is such a great enabling city.
Are you still like a Sharks supporter? Are you?
No, I'm not a huge rugby fan, interestingly enough. Basically, I'm a big football fan, and I grew up with Durban. I was a Durban United fan when I was growing up as a kid.
And now it's Amazulu, isn't it?
Amazulu. Well, before there was Durban Bushbucks was my team in between. And then Amazulu. Although to be honest with you, I have actually shifted over now, and because I studied at Wits, I'm now gone over to Wits basically. So
there you have it. He's converted, fully converted now.
But Durban, but it's from the cricket side. I'm 100% always been a Dolphins fan, and always, you know what I mean. I would go and watch the Dolphins play come up here when they'd come up here and support them thoroughly, even though I was sitting in the bull ring basically. Yeah. So,
well, this entire conversation started because we mentioned the word Esplanade.
Yeah.
And this is Gary Rathbone with his second track on Bandstrip. It's called Esplanade.
When the big crowd has gone, I'm lonely on the Esplanade. Raveling shore. Traffic lights and empty streets. Crawling through the rain. Live on your knees, not on your feet. Esplanade, you run. The curve saw through my soul. Memories a ship sailing out to the old world where I knew my love. The city, oh, she comes and goes. There's a harbor full of ghosts, a harbor full of yesterdays. And ships all sail away, sailing out to the old world where I knew my love. The city, oh, she comes and goes. Yes, she comes and goes.
And that was Esplanade by Gary Rathbone. Now, if you've heard the lyrics in that song, you probably want to take a spin down the Esplanade. If you're ever in Durban in December or whenever, drive down the Esplanade. It's still quite an experience. Not exactly the experience it used to be, but it's definitely still an experience. Gary, welcome back. Now, over the last 30 years or so, who are the bands and artists that have impressed you the most?
Well, I mean, the thing is there's been so much that's happened basically, and musically, it's always a continually evolving environment. And the problem with being the older you get, the longer your back catalogue of great favourites is,
Yeah.
So you can go back like the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and all the stuff that you got excited with when you were younger now, and that's still there. But then every decade comes along and there's another 10 or 20 art acts that come along, and I think particularly though the in the last sort of 19 years since 2000s, when I really kind of threw myself back into what's happening contemporary on the musical scene. I actually been discovering a lot of really, really good stuff. And I think the 6 years living in London as well allowed me to go around and dig around at venues, small gigs and pubs and things like that, and discover bands as well as all the big artists that were coming through. And I've got a chance to see a lot of things. But there's a lot of really, really good band called Midlake, which I'm really, really fond of actually. Deer Hunter is another band which I love a lot. I got a chance to see them twice. Actually,
strong alternative choices.
Well, I thought that's where my kind of roots are basically. The National, another band that I've seen a couple of times now.
Too,
they really have been. The way I've seen them kind of grow over the years. They really become quite a big band.
They're sort of a very acoustic driven.
But they've got a really nice vibe about them, and I love them, and they were great live. Just seeing them live. Another band, Bell and Sebastian, which I became very, very fond of as well.
I've actually got a Bell and Sebastian CD in my car. Right
there you go. I was also got a chance to see them a couple of times as well. So being in London was great because I got to see that, see them quite a lot.
And from a South African perspective, who in South Africa Because we've had some great bands,
Yeah.
especially over the last 20 years.
My problem for me is because I've only just gotten back to the country,
Yeah.
from being out of the country for so long, and got back at the end of last year, and I'm really, I haven't really had a chance to kind of, I'm trying to, I had to think when I
So you're fresh off the boat, so to speak, right?
kind of thing.
So I can make you a mixtape and...
that would be fantastic. I was listening because when you had the showcase, so
Yeah.
it was nice to listen to listen to the show then,
Yeah.
and listen to some of the stuff again.
That was 100% South African music, by the way.
and that's
so
great. I was amazed at some of the stuff that
very good.
that was on there. But Bomb Shelter Beast I've seen, which I
Yeah.
thought were really good. As a live band, they were really, really interesting. And but I need to, I want to kind of, for me, the last 8 months now, since I've been 8-10 months, it's been a matter of kind of adjusting, getting my life back on track again, and all this kind of thing. But you know what I mean. I need to kind of throw myself back into the into the local music.
From what I
scene.
understand, in terms of now that you've released Fly, which is your EP, your new EP, your comeback EP, let's call it that, right? I see that you have, from what Neil has shared with me so far, I see there's a bit of a production plan in terms of there's a lot of stuff to come and very soon too.
Yeah. So that's the idea. So I've got about quite a bit, as I said, because there's a big back catalogue of more back stuff that I've written from years ago that's still there that I need to get out. So there's that, and all the time while that's working on the old stuff, I've been writing new stuff as well. That's kind of creeping in. So we've got to do this one now. And so if you take the example for Fly, Cold War is like one of the oldest songs that I've actually got that's around there. And then on that is also a song called What You Love Is What Kills You, was written a couple of months ago. You know what I mean? I came out of the shower one morning and it was all in my head, and I sat down, put it together in literally half an hour.
So you came out of the shower and you wrote a song called What You Love
Is What Kills You.
Is What Kills You. Well, listeners at home, you can take what you want from that. But I've certainly have my take where I'm going to bang that thought to Gary Rathbone.
They say the shower is actually a great place for creativity, basically. It's where people...
It's a great place for a lot of things.
Creativity particularly.
Exactly. Who are the artists that you would love to collaborate with?
Man.
I would specify and say South African artists maybe that now that you have almost like a workflow and a plan to record more music.
Yeah.
What are the types of artists that you'd love to collaborate with?
Well, one thing I would like to get back to is getting back to more the sort of African guitar influences that I used to like quite a lot, particularly like Congolese music and stuff like that, which I really used to be fond of. And I've kind of, although I did get quite a bit of it in London because there's a lot of that world music kind of going through there. But I was fortunate enough to play when we did the gig at the Radium recently. A guy called, it was also with Neil, a guy called Bienvenue Nseka, and he's a Congolese guitarist, and I'm really hoping to be able to work with him and start, because I'd like to bring that sound into the new stuff that I'm creating and the way that I want to do that. And I do like, as I was saying earlier on, I think the idea of collaborating with people and artists is a fantastic thing to do, because that's the best way to kind of expand your own experience and your own skill, basically.
I think especially where you are in your career right now, you have a lot of experience, you have a lot of perspective on music, and not just music, on life. And I think being able to work with other artists is not just what you will get, it's what you're able to share with them as an experience.
No, and absolutely. And I think that when you talk about the production line, because there are plans, you're saying there are 3 EPs that are coming, there are 2 more EPs to come after this, after Fly. The next one's called Love, there's 4 tracks, and then there's another one called Sound of Tomorrow, which will be the last one, another 4 tracks. Is that, I'd like to think that with those songs, they're all pretty much done and they're all just being finished off, basically. But I'd like to think that what I'm putting in those 3 EPs, that the music that will come after that will be quite different. And if you would be listening to what I'm going to be creating maybe in a year from now, I think it would be quite different to what we would be with Fly right now. I'd like to think there would be obviously a kind of creative thread and a structural thread and a kind of sensibility of what my music is about will be there. But I think that I'm going to play with a lot of things that I want to kind of encounter and discover and bring them into what I'm doing going forward.
Oh, fantastic. Now, many of our listeners out there are a similar age to you and I, Gary, and they're listening right now, and they will all remember a song many, many years ago, which was a #1 hit. It was a huge hit in South Africa. It's a song called Teddy Bear.
Yeah.
Now, you wrote that song, right?
Well, no, I was a co-writer, yeah. So it was Alan Lusk, Richard Frost and myself, we kind of co-wrote, we wrote it together. Yeah, I know. It was just one of those things that just came together. Yeah. In fact, when we wrote it, just a quick story about how that kind of, when we wrote it, we always saw it as a bit of a throwaway fun song that we played at gigs, but it wasn't going to be and then we got an opportunity. Duncan Gibbon at RPM wanted to give us a listen, and he said, "Listen, I'm keen. I think I might sign you guys. I'm interested, but I want to put you into the Gallows Studios for 2 nights. I want you to go and record some demos, and then we'll see how it goes. So we went down there. We said we picked 4 or 5 songs to do, and we just said, just for a laugh, might as well, because we thought would be the thing. Let's just throw in Teddy Bear. And Duncan came down the second night, and we were mixing it, and he happened to walk in as we were busy on the mix on Teddy Bear, and he just walked in and he stopped. He didn't say anything. He listened, and he said, "Okay, that's a hit. Just come to my offices tomorrow. Let's work out a contract. We got a deal, basically." And
that's the last song you probably wanted to release, but
he was right. He spotted that, and it worked.
Now I know you came to talk a lot about your new music, etc. But we would love for you to play us a version of that song.
Great. No, I'd love to. But also, I would like to play it for another reason, because I've got a new version of it, which I'm doing on the next EP, which is coming out, which is going to be quite different to where it used to be.
Yeah.
The production on it was done with Richard Frost, one of the co-writers, and certainly Alan Lusk has also given it his blessing as well, that he really likes what we're doing with it. So
it's a new evolution of something.
It's a new evolution of Teddy Bear. The version that I'm going to play live now is still slightly different as well, because it's what I can do with an acoustic guitar in a limited space. The version on the EP is quite different, quite a stripped-down version. And as Julie was actually saying earlier on when we were talking about the car, is that it's cinematic, It's
very
Parisian
nice.
Jazz cinematic. I think it kind of gets back to
lovely. You've really
essence
piqued my
of
curiosity
what it
now. This is Gary Rathbone, and he's giving us a bit of a treat tonight. He's going to be playing a new version of Teddy Bear, just for you, the Hot 91.9 audience, right here on the SA Music Box.
Sitting by the riverside, locals call the same. Lying in my arms is my best friend. I do all the talking, he's got all the charm. As long as we're together, I protect him from harm.
Teddy Bear,
one eye's missing, there's a button instead.
Teddy Bear,
showing signs of baldness at the top of his
Mr.
head.
Teddy Bear,
Never been mistaken for a millionaire.
Children laugh and parents cry, but I don't care.
Good times faded fast, clung to our dreams. Then I lost our money in the video machines. It's got to get better, things can't get worse. But Teddy turned around and said he wants a divorce.
Teddy Bear,
one eye's missing, there's a button
Mr.
instead.
Teddy Bear,
showing signs of baldness at the top of his
Mr.
head.
Teddy Bear,
Never been mistaken for a millionaire.
Children laugh and parents cry, but I don't care.
We'll always have Paris. We'll always have Paris.
We'll always have Paris.
We'll always have Paris.
We'll always have Paris.
'Cause on a windy corner, we said our goodbyes. Tried to talk to Teddy, but he wouldn't reply. Truck came round the corner, a little faster than required. And Teddy pushed me out the way, was crushed by a tire.
Teddy Bear,
Eyes missing, there's a button
Mr.
instead.
Teddy
Showing
Bear,
signs of baldness at the top of his
Mr.
head.
Teddy Bear,
Never been mistaken for a millionaire.
children laugh and parents cry, but I don't care. Mr. Teddy Bear, oh so laissez-faire. Mr. Teddy Bear, Mr. Teddy Bear, oh so
Teddy
laissez-faire.
Bear.
I don't care.
We'll always have Paris.
And that was the new version of Teddy Bear by Gary Rathbone tonight on Band Stripped. Gary, where can people find you and your music?
Well, the music itself now it's been released digitally, so it's all available in all the usual places.
So Google Music, Spotify,
absolutely,
Apple
Amazon,
Music.
Apple, all those things basically. Just Music are doing the distribution for us, so they managed to get it out wherever so wherever you want. Even Deezer, Tidal, everything's got it basically.
Okay.
I did the first kind of gig coming back now to things at the Radium as part of a set that Neil had put together for other Passage One artists, and it was great fun.
Yeah.
So that to me is the first step. Now I'm putting a bit of a band together. And we look to kind of get out on the road and start doing support gigs first, and then slowly build some traction up on that.
And if people want to follow you, it's Gary.Radbone
on Instagram.
On Instagram, you can follow Gary Rathbone to see what he's getting up to, and where he'll be gigging, and where you can find his music.
That'll be I haven't put together a Facebook page for my musical side of my life, and my LinkedIn is purely about my work in football and television.
Gary,
so you don't want me go there basically.
You are completely forgiven. This generational gap, there are many people out there in the market who can help you plug that gap. But it is important because social media connects especially younger people. I think
no, absolutely. And I think that it's great. As I was saying earlier on, I think this is what's changed about music, is people can actually reach an audience, in so many more ways. The trick is how to manage that. And I'm saying that this is what's needed, and I'm actually like the worst person to doing it myself, but I do know that I need to do it, and everybody should do it. There's a huge opportunity if people make the most of it. They can actually find themselves audiences out there.
Fantastic. Well, that's Gary Rathbone, and he was our guest tonight. Gary, thank you so much.
Absolutely, Sim.
And thank you for gracing us with your music and your incredible stories about your career and your journey, particularly.
Thank you.
And we'll see you soon. All the best.
Thank you very much, Sim. Very nice to be here.
Thank you.
Hot 91.9.
Playing the best old school and R&B.